Mutual attraction and chemistry are wonderful feelings when you're getting to know someone new. However, there's a fine line between someone being genuinely interested and taking things too far into an unhealthy obsession. An overly intense fixation can quickly turn sour, making you feel suffocated, unsafe, and even stalked. In today's digital age, it's easier than ever for people to take their infatuation to extremes behind the safety of a screen. From incessant texting and calling to showing up unannounced or meticulously cataloging your online activity, the signs of someone being too into you manifest in myriad ways, many of which are alarmingly intrusive. So how can you tell if someone has crossed that line? How do you distinguish sincere interest from a dangerous preoccupation? In this video, we'll explore 7 unmistakable red flags that should prompt you to create some very necessary distance before the situation spirals out of control. Sign number 1, they're always available. We all enjoy having someone attentive and responsive in our lives. But when they're available at quite literally any hour of the day or night, that should set off alarm bells in your mind. A healthy relationship allows each person room to breathe, to have their own friendships, hobbies, and independence. If someone is perpetually at your beck and call, never seeming to have other priorities or commitments, it could indicate an obsessive, codependent dynamic taking root. They may attempt to justify this by saying you're the most important person in their life, but that's not normal or sustainable. Everybody needs boundaries. Sign number 2, excessive communication. In the early stages of a blossoming connection, frequent communication is normal as you explore your mutual curiosities and interests. The problems arise when it becomes utterly incessant and overwhelming, a relentless barrage of good morning texts, phone calls for no reason, tagging you in memes at all hours, or blowing up your social media with comments on every post. This behavior doesn't arise from a caring, respectful place. It demonstrates a lack of consideration for your time, space, and boundaries. The subtext is, you must think about me and respond to me constantly, because you're all I can think about. That's not romance, it's control. Sign number 3, they jokingly talk about marriage/kids. Maybe it starts with an offhand comment like, we're going to have the cutest babies someday. Or they make casual references to being your future spouse, what kind of wedding you'll have, or how they'd be as a parent to your children. When you've only been dating for a couple weeks, these kinds of comments should sound alarms blaring in your head. The overly premature references to eternal commitment are a classic ploy by which the obsessive individual attempts to establish permanence and possession over you. They're constructing an imaginary future without your input as a means of manifesting it into reality. Don't fall for that fantasy. Sign number 4, they know your schedule better than you do. In a new relationship, you may occasionally let certain details about your typical day or routine slip out in conversation. You don't expect those nuggets of information to be meticulously cataloged and exploited. Yet, for the unhealthily fixated individual, that's exactly what happens. All of a sudden, they just happened to grab coffee at the same time and place you do every morning. Or they were idling outside your workplace for a spontaneous lunchtime rendezvous you never agreed to. This perceived serendipity is actually the product of careful observation, tracking, and premeditated planning on their part. It should creep you out, not flatter you. Sign number 5, they get hostile when you have outside plans. A huge, waving red banner signaling you're dealing with an obsession rather than a genuine caring connection. How they respond with disproportionate anger, hostility, or sulking when you make plans without them. In their deluded perspective, you're an extension of themselves, you should require their approval and involvement for any activity. Healthy relationships have room for separate friends, hobbies, and independence. If your new romantic interest can't handle you living a life that existed before they entered the picture, that's a serious problem. Dictating how you spend your time and with whom is a classic control tactic of abusers. Sign number 6, they show up unannounced. Does this person have a habit of showing up at your home, workplace, gym, or any other frequent locations without any advance notice or permission? That's not romantic spontaneity, it's a violation of privacy and boundaries that can be frightening. Don't brush it off as them being too eager or just excited to see you. That's an excuse to justify unacceptable behavior. Surprises require the consent of both parties to be acceptable. If it's a one-way street with you on the receiving end far too often, it transforms from an innocent gesture into something more insidious, the first steps towards monitoring your movements and installing themselves into your routine against your will. Sign number 7, they create social media accounts to track you. In today's hyper-connected digital age, it's incredibly simple for someone to create an account with the primary purpose of following, liking, monitoring, and engaging with your online life. It may start with one innocuous follow, but then it escalates into a sweeping surveillance of your public internet presence across multiple platforms. When someone's attention on social media feels stalkerish, it's because it likely stems from the same motivations as an actual stalker. They want to know and consume everything about your life, conversations, connections, and whereabouts. And that should make anyone feel profoundly unsafe and invaded. Closing thoughts. The emergence of even just one or two of these red flags should prompt you to disengage from that unhealthy dynamic immediately. As the obsessive person loses control, their behavior typically grows more erratic, unpredictable, intrusive, and potentially dangerous. You don't owe someone an explanation for cutting off communication. In fact, doing so may only embolden them by giving them an opening to try manipulating and guilting you. Your safety and peace of mind should be the top priority. So if these signs are present, remove yourself from that situation expeditiously and make alternative safety plans to protect yourself if the obsessive fixation escalates further.